Angela Thomas, Deputy Director with the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber has been in India for about 30 years, and we have close to 500 members in India and Australia. In May this year, Prakash Challa, the President of the Chamber, will be leading our 20th business mission to Australia. It's a proud moment for us, as Deakin University has been a member of the Chamber since the last 7 years, and are celebrating 25 years of engagement in India. I have some remarkable people with me today who have made this happen. Professor Jane Den Hollander, AO, who is the Vice Chancellor and President of Deakin University. Professor Gary Smith, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Global Engagement, and Ravneet Pavhar, Deputy Vice President, Global Engagement, and CEO, South Asia. Firstly, thank you very much for doing this, and congratulations on this remarkable milestone.
Well, thank you for your interest, and we have been members for 7 years, and I think we joined at a point where we had matured as a university in India. And 25 years is more than half our history as a university. We're one of the younger universities in Australia. But we are extraordinarily delighted with the relationships and the partnerships that we have had in India, and what the outcomes of those partnerships now are.
So 25 years of bilateral engagement in education in India, and with Deakin being one of the first international universities to set up here, the first university to set up here. I'm sure there have been, different firsts, many of them, but if you were to look back, what would be the top trailblazing moments for Deakin in India?
You would have to say when there is recognition by both governments that you're doing something well. We're both democracies. And the moment for me when I realised that we had done something special with our research and our education with our Indian partners was when Prime Minister Modi, with our Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull of the day, jointly opened our Terry Deakin Nanobiotechnology Centre. Now, that was, first of all, to get two prime ministers together. Of course, it almost broke Ravneet, but putting that aside, because the organisation was astounding. We also had our education minister, the other side, opposite number, was also there. But what it signified was that we had done something that both prime ministers and their advisors was valuable. What it signified for us was that we had for 22 years, 23 years by then, educated generations of Indian students in Australia. But what we had also done was we had created innovation inside India to do in-country PhDs and to start doing research that was innovative and that had meaning for Indians and Australians, which is our nanotechnology, biotechnology partnership. Indians exceptional in biotechnology. Deakin built very significant skills in nano, and that was recognised by the head of the largest democracy in the world and our very own Prime Minister. That was
excellent. Congratulations. Yes. And with Deakin being the #1 university, ranked #1 for skills development in Victoria, what do you think are the top or the 3 main reasons why students choose to come and study in Deakin? I mean, they do have a lot of choices, but why do they?
And so they're very selective, and they do choose. So they give you the privilege, they give you the honour of choosing you. One of the things that we have put remorselessly at the top is that we must delight our students. And delight is a very loaded word. For us, it means a lot of attention. So all of our students in India who choose Deakin, they will get to know the staff, Priyanka and her team. They will have eye-to-eye contact with almost every student who comes, every mother, every father, every uncle, every aunt who wants to know and can know. So that's the first thing, is close attention. The second thing is brutal honesty. I want to do this. Probably Deakin isn't the place for you. I'd like to do that. Well, here's what you have to do. So the honesty that we have given, the clarity we have given. And then the third thing, I think, is to make sure that when they're on campus, they have a wonderful time. We run a big Diwali, as Ravneet will tell you, 2,000 students across the university and their friends come once a year, and we have a massive Diwali with fireworks, and because they're not with their parents and they're not at home. And I think it's that combination of we can be trusted, we will give you an education that will lead to a job, and you will have some fun while you're doing it, is a cocktail that is hard to deny.
Yeah, and I also think that one of the things that does make Deakin attractive to Indian students is the word of mouth from, from time to time. I mean, we've grown off a small base to a very large base, and that's largely, of course, been by the relationships that we have here, by the partnerships, but also the word of mouth that comes from there, like the Vice Chancellor said. The care that we put into the students, parents feel at ease to say that, my child is going to Deakin and will be looked after. So pre and post, I think both we do quite well. We have some very attractive scholarships for meritorious students as well. I mean, we have Vice Chancellor scholarships which are very competitive, but 100% tuition waiver. Then we have a range of other scholarships. So I think that's also one of the reasons why students feel that they're, meritorious students are cared for, like anywhere else in the world.
Yes, I suppose you attract the best as well and
We
retain
put some
them.
of the best through a very special program. We have the Vice Chancellor's Excellence Program, so the best of the best get put into a special leadership and enhancement program throughout the whole time at Deakin University. So when they leave the university, they will move very quickly into leadership positions back home in India or within Australia.
Or wherever they go.
Or wherever they go.
We'd like them to either stay in Australia or come back to India, but the world does become your oyster.
Great. So Gary mentioned leadership, which kind of leads on very well to my next question. Women leadership is something that we're all passionate about as well. And, Professor, with you taking over close to 9 years ago, what was it when you took over this role that you wanted to accomplish? And a sub-question to that, how did you ensure that Deakin played to its strengths?
Good question. So when you arrive, once the joy of getting a job is over, the shock is that you have to leave the place better than you found it. And I think for all leaders that must be, you stand on the shoulders of others. So I'm the 6th Vice Chancellor, 5 before me. The university was a good one. And so what could I do with my team to take us to the next level? So the 7th Vice Chancellor, who will take over, has something to work with. So that was the first thing. In terms of the university itself, I felt that we had quite a lot to offer to the next generation. I arrived in 2010. The digital revolution was beginning, and you could see the world of work had changed. I took it as an obligation. Gary is a very senior member of my team, Deputy Vice Chancellor, that we, as our executive, would have to work to make sure that the people we educated in 2010 to 2020 would have jobs in 2030 and 2040 for future leaders. So we did a very significant change of tack. Live the Future, our strategic agenda, is a very different one from other universities, to make sure that we had education for the jobs of the future and research that makes a difference to our communities. Those were our 2 pillars. And we've broadly done that. We've won many accolades, as you know. The thing I'm most proud of is that we have a balanced council. If I go to gender, I think gender matters these days. It certainly matters in India, it matters in Australia. We have a balanced council. The numbers of men and women are equal. My executive is balanced. The number of men and women are equal. Our layer below, our senior manager, is getting to balanced, almost balanced. I think that's important. I see that as one of the great triumphs, is to get the acceptance in the wider community of the university that this is a big thing. Diversity has mattered to me. I've taken our values of access and inclusion have been very strong values for me, given my own background. And so I have spent a lot of time making sure that we keep the funnel wide. If you're clever enough and you think you can get a degree, welcome to Deakin. And then to be inclusive of everyone. We don't care what your religion, your gender, whatever it is, your disability. We don't mind what it is. What we think is, if you think you can get a degree, join us and we'll help you along the way. So that's been broadly the view we've taken. And my final point is the culture matters. Cultures of big organisations matter, and making sure we had a harmonious culture that agreed with the direction we're taking. And if you don't agree with our direction, we'll help you leave the organisation, because the people on the bus are the people who are driving a very important bus, 60,000 odd students who have chosen you to educate them for the jobs of their future. And that's our mantra. Students are true north. We never shift from that, do we, Gary?
And we have, as a result, a strongly committed organisation behind the culture, and this gives strength to the direction we're moving in. So it's enabled us to have an influence far beyond our scale. And our scale is big, but Professor Den Hollander's leadership has taken us right into the halls of Canberra, to our government, state and federal, and we're able to influence policy decisions, resource decisions, and have that just impact amongst the university sector in Australia that's very noticeable.
So, Professor Gary Smith, the next one is, a question for you around global engagement. So, what would be Deakin, if you could give us an overview of...
For us, global engagement begins from where we are. We are in the twin cities of Geelong and Melbourne. It's a long way from everywhere else in the world. It's a 4-hour plane flight to leave the country. You're on the plane for 4 hours and you still haven't left Australia. Look out the window and we're still over our land. So we have very small population, very large distances, and we're very remote. And our ambition of the global engagement is to take our university out to the world, to take our offer of excellent education out as far as we can, to take our own students out into an experience beyond our own country and our own part of the country, and as we've discussed, to have those great research partnerships as well with many parts of the world. And we have offices from Copenhagen in Europe across to Latin America, but our main focus is, of course, into Asia and the Asian region, and in particular the great powers of India and China, but our central focus is India, where this is our leading position.
Why is India important to Deakin, the connection? We've spoken about that quite, but if you were just put down a very quick...
I think part of it is the open, friendly disposition of our two countries towards each other, the research culture, the openness to knowledge gaining, sharing and innovation. It's the ability to both of us to be quite pragmatic and do things together, even if government support does not seem to be always in the right place. We can work around that and collaborate in spite of that. So I think there's a basis of deep and friendly relations. The democratic nature of the two societies is important. There's a value sharing there that makes things work. There is the big connection of our populations, as many Indians have come and made their lives in Australia, and they're part of the bridge between our two countries. So these things all add up together. It's very, I know it's always hard, but it's also hard to do stuff in India with our university in India. So we find it actually an enjoyable and pleasant challenge, and we've had such tremendous reciprocal engagement with our partners here.
Talk a little bit about how we've contributed to the Geelong story, for example. So the Masters of Engineering program was started in Geelong at Deakin University, and I remember in the first it took us a long time to get the program off the ground, because master's degrees are, Australian students don't necessarily study masters straight after bachelor's, whereas the Indian mindset is you do a bachelor's, you do a master's, you get into a job.
That's right.
So there was a lot of demand for a Masters of Engineering. Once we got that up, we started getting students from India. Initially we had to talk about Geelong but sell it. But as we sort of got into the group, we realized that what they were really after was a great degree and connections and a lifestyle, and Geelong offers that. And through word of mouth, it has grown from step to step. And today we have 1,000 students a year studying degrees in Geelong campus from India, which has actually contributed to jobs,
to the Geelong economy and to the culture.
Yeah.
So it is interesting just how that culture has changed. I was in, it's quite funny, a lot of our students work, to supplement their income.
Yes.
And the Indian restaurants all had Deakin students in them. But we were in a different restaurant, an Indonesian one, and I recognised the student. I said, "Why are you here?" He said, "I love the food, so I'm learning." So I don't know what his mother was thinking. He's working in an Indonesian restaurant, but there you are.
That's
Isn't that amazing?
It is, yes.
The intercultural blending of people learning from each other. Wants to learn about Indonesian food, so when he worked as a waiter in the restaurant, I thought I was quite impressed with what he'd done, and I think those those collateral benefits for us are amazing.
If you were to look back and reflect, what would be one highlight and one low light in specific to India or South Asia?
So I think the highlight has always been about the wonderful support I get from the Deakin leadership. You know, that has been the highlight, and I have to say that what we have been able to achieve is because of the trust, the support, and and the money that we get to do things in this country. Running an operation which is far from the headquarters is a hard one. Yes. Because if you don't have the leadership that understands the challenges you're going through on a day-to-day basis, then it becomes that much more difficult. You probably be much slower in where you are, and you won't. And I think that is the difference of Deakin, because I have always been told, including by the High Commission, that you get things done, and while the others are still thinking about it, and that is only because I have a direct line to the bosses of the university. And that is important and has been the highlight for me. And I've learned so much. I mean, from people like Gary and Jane. And to me personally, that has been most satisfying. I think the challenge is people, to find the right people to do the right work and to retain people. Because in India, we are seen as, I often say, as a training ground for people for the industry. Not just for Australian education, but for American, for UK and all. I mean, today we will have 50, 60 people running different international education hubs, which they have all worked at Deakin at some stage over the years. So we've sort of set up that sort of industry,
yes.
And that has been my challenge, and is my challenge today, is to get good people and retain good people.
The last question is, as we all like to do, look ahead, see, with Deakin being, a visionary university, and so in terms of shaping the future, leaning into the future, what is Deakin and India's strategic plan to ensure that you retain, maybe surpass your current ranking, your student experience, or also to be relevant, to continue being relevant?
Look, I'll have a go because I'm retiring soon, and I think what have we done well? We've educated Indians in Australia, and of course mostly, even though we have lots of scholarship, mostly they've had to be able to afford that very expensive privileged international education. Our Deakin Deary scholarships, the scholarships we have in country for people to do their PhDs while they work with industry, Biocon, Terry, Deakin, India Oil, have been fantastic, but it's small scale. The advantage there is we've educated numbers of women who would otherwise not get an education. The next contribution, if our values of access and inclusion matter, is to say what is it that we can do in country for those who would like to do some of the things that Deakin offers but can't afford to come. Can we do cloud, digital, online education at a level of excellence so that there's good learning in country at a price average Indians can afford? And that's what we're doing now with our graduate certificate. We've got 3 graduate certificates that we're looking to bring into India to see whether is there a market. If there's a market, do people find this a useful way to study? Because we have a very big office and yes. We can support that. The 5.5-hour time zone helps. And if so, what else can we do? And that's where we go. So go to bigger scale, but in India, contributing back into the economy here to educate Indians.
Great.
That's a plan. Gary's leading that. Gary's leading that. He's looking slightly grey.
No, excellence at scale. Look, it's an ambition. We want to be part of India's sharing the journey with India and your future. And we see we've got scale geographically, but we don't have scale in population. We'd like to be able to blend in with a country that's got these other challenges and join with you in those larger challenges.
I just want to say that we have, during Jane's trip this week, we have announced scholarships worth $9 million for research in India for PhD programs in the areas, again, that are futuristic areas, which is advanced materials, health.
Public health. So very strong in public health.
Artificial intelligence and so forth. And I think those kind of contributions from Deakin are going to help take the young India forward, and also maybe the Vice Chancellor
graduate
might-
certificates.
Yes, in hospital management.
So where would you educate Indians? And if you think about your rising population and public health, one of the things, your hospitals are becoming super high-tech, very modern facilities that must have high levels of patient quality and safety. And so one of the things we've done is a graduate certificate to educate the hospital administrators of the future. To have clean, safe, high-tech hospitals, you need qualified people. We can help with that. We are going to price the degree at $8,000. For Indian residents who will go online, we're going to offer a $2,000 bursary to bring it down to $6,000, and let's see what happens. If that works, we have an IT and a sport management graduate certificate to follow. Sport management being very big here is your IPL, your soccer league, your hockey league, and what the professions here tell us, they don't have the skills that perhaps a small country like Australia has because we're so sport mad. Can we transfer some of those skills here? We think we can. If we can do excellence at scale, everyone will benefit.
Definitely. So I think on that note, thank you very much, Professor Jaindan Halanda, AO, Professor Gary Smith, and Ravneet Baba. It's been wonderful having this conversation, and on behalf of the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce, all the others, I'm sure many well-wishers, would like to congratulate you and wish you another glorious, or maybe and more, 25 years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.